Beautiful little lock motors. Absolutely wonderful things. Absolutely great. Very small, compact. If we had a ruler, we could have a look at the sort of size that they are. So if we put a ruler against it, then we can see just how small it is. Looks like it's about 20 millimeters by 25 millimeters, something like that. But I made a big mistake when I bought them. I didn't record what I'd bought, and as usual I went and bought far too many, got carried away. Seemed to be a good price, so I thought I'd buy them. We can see on the gearboxes, this one for example has quite a lot of gears up here, whereas these three don't. They have a big spacer in. These are all different speeds as far as I can work out, but it's difficult to tell from the gears exactly what the speed is of each motor. I've got an added complication that the motors themselves can have different voltages. So what I want to be able to do is to sort out what the speed of each one is, in other words how many RPM, and what the voltage of the motors is. So to do that, I thought I'd use my trusty BBC machine. Well, hopefully trusty, and set it up so that I could count the number of turns on the motor. So I made this little jig up. I've taken a gear wheel that fixes onto the motor, and I've got an opto reflective switch which can count as it goes round. It will see the light, dark. To fasten the motor in, I've just used an old battery clip off a car battery, so I can quickly put them in and take them out. That needs to be a small gap to this reflective opto switch, which I've just put onto the BBC, so it can count the number of turns. I've got 2 meters. This first meter here is going to measure the current, and the second meter here the voltage. So if I plug the motor in or connect the motor and then switch on the power, give me the power, then the motor, hopefully we can see, is turning. Can see it's consuming about 15 milliamps at a voltage of just over 4 volts. So if I run the computer, I'll just test first of all to see it is actually seeing different, the white and dark bits. So let's get rid of that, and let's try counting to see how many turns it goes up to. This one's very slow, and it will be quite easy to count these myself. So it's gone for 10 seconds, and it's counted 4 or 5 counts. 4 counts I think it is. I can then try and stop the motor and measure what I consider to be the stall current. Don't like doing that, but it looks like it was just over 100 milliamps. So that way I've tried to divide up all my different motors into different types. So I've got 4 voltages and 4 speeds, I think, giving me 16 possible voltages, combinations of motor. So if we turn that off, then if we have a look at the results, which seem to be not too confusing. Get rid of those. They aren't cheap. Well, I don't think they're cheap. They're about £3, £3 or £4 each from China, which to me is quite a lot of money, more than I'd normally want to spend on a motor. But they're just so beautiful and so small and compact. So looking at my results, I haven't put them on a spreadsheet or anything. I've just scribbled them on a bit of paper. Down here I've got the RPM. This is the 10-second RPM. So I've got to multiply that by 6 to give me the overall RPM. And looking at that, I've sort of concluded there are about 4 different speeds coming out. I've got something like 330, 348, 200, 72 and something like 32 to, is it 40? Yeah, something like 40 I think. So that gives me my 4 possible sorts of speed, and then I've looked at the voltage. Now to measure the voltage, not the voltage, the current or the resistance. 2 ways to measure resistance. One is to use these currents that I've achieved when the motor's running. That's without any load on apart from the gearbox. I've measured the stall currents, but I can't really get much out of those. Then I've calculated, looked at the voltage, divide the 4 volts divided by the current, and come out with this column. And I've also measured the resistance just using a meter. So there seems to be a correlation between them. The calculated resistance is a lot different to the measured resistance, of course, because there's back EMF and all sorts of gobbledygook going on. So I seem to have managed to get that down to 4 different voltages. And so looking down at the bottom, in summary, I seem to have 4 sets of RPM and 4 different voltages. So hopefully from that now I can decide what motor I want to use where. And of course, the conclusion of all this is, when I get a motor, I must write down its voltage and its RPM. Well, it's been an interesting sort of project. It's enabled me to use my good old BBC computer, and hopefully it'll give me the information that I want. Yeah, bye now. Bye.